Hello everyone, I'm Ben Coleman. I'm your anchor host here at the Florida Aviation Network, live and in the clear. Sun and Fun 2012. I say 2012, it's 2021, and this is live. We can't take anything back. Once it goes out, it's out there forever. Thank you for joining us here, and I tell you, had a great Sun and Fun so far. We're kind of getting toward the backstretch, but we always save the best for last. And we're going to start off right now with a gentleman that I've known for a few years, another gentleman that I had just met, and a gentleman that I know too well. We have dirt on each other. I'm going to start off, John Goglia. John, welcome to Sun and Fun. Ken MacTiernan, my arm's not long enough. And we have Mr. Greg Hollywood Feith there on the end. Gentlemen, it is a pleasure to have you here, and I know you got here a few days ago, and you've had a chance to walk around.
We've been around the state, but not around this air show yet.
We're going to get you out there. We're going to show you some things that just make your hair curl. Even you, John.
What hair?
Okay. I resemble that remark. But John, you are the president of PAMA, that's Professional Aviation Maintenance Association. Tell us just a little bit, because people, PAMA also found it as a liquor. If you Google PAMA on the image for Google, it comes up as a liquor.
I didn't know that. I'll have to put the yarn on them for some samples.
Tell us about PAMA, John.
Well, PAMA's been around since the early 70s, and it's been focused on the GA segment of aviation all that time. And a couple of years ago, PAMA was not doing very well, and I was asked to come in and take over PAMA, essentially become the president, and try to put it back on the rails, so to speak. And one of the things that we have decided to do with PAMA is, one, put a very big focus on young people, try to entice young people in, try to help them through their education process. Whether you're a pilot or a mechanic, trying to get through the system can be quite a challenge sometimes, not only just financially, but just other reasons as well. So we're trying to mentor and help people along. So in that same vein, PAMA some 20 years ago started the Aerospace Maintenance Skills Competition. It was called the PAMA Olympics. And I wish we could call it the Olympics again, but the U.S. Olympics owns the name and they won't let anybody use it. So we came up with the Aerospace Maintenance Skills Competition. And I'll let Ken in a minute talk about the skills competition, but we pulled that together. And as another piece of PAMA, we're looking to take the flight safety detectives, which Greg Feith and I host a podcast, and we talk about accidents and we talk about everything aviation. And sometimes we take upon issues that maybe some people don't like, some subjects they don't want to talk. We're now entering into what's going to be a lengthy discussion over many months about diversity in aviation, because we are not diverse in aviation, and we need to be more inclusive. We used to be very inclusive, but somewhere along the line we've lost that. So we're looking to try to raise those issues and awareness. And PAMA seems to be the cornerstone of that effort. And the two efforts that these two gentlemen are helping with are just the beginning of what we're going to do. We want to reach out and try to change the focus of people about aviation, about the personnel in aviation, and raise awareness. We're still, as flight safety detectives, I'll talk a second about that. We still crash 1,500 airplanes a year in general aviation. Why? Why? We've had all these programs. The FAA has spent millions of dollars every year trying to educate people. Are we putting the training money in the wrong place? It's based on NTSB accident reports. Are those reports giving us accurate information about the causes of the crashes? There's a lot of people out there that say no. Right? So, but I'd like to go to the skills competition, because that's sort of the apple of PAMA's eye right now. So Ken, if you would.
John, can I hold you up just a little bit? Because you say you're the president of PAMA. It sounds to me like you bring some type of leadership to this effort. What a little bit background about John Goglia. Some people don't know who John Goglia is. Where'd you come from?
No way.
Where'd you come from, John? Something to do with the airlines, and then you went to work for the government. You were a civil servant for a little while.
Yes, I was. All right, so if we go back far enough, and one of these guys sitting right here will start on me about this. You know, he often tells everybody that yesterday was Wilbur Wright's birthday. And he'll tell you if he's given the chance that I got my flying lessons from Wilbur. Because I learned to fly in a J2, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of people around here that know what that is, but oftentimes they don't. So I go back to early teenagers with aviation. I lived on the shadow of Boston's Logan Airport. I was at the airport every day after school. That's back before we had fences around them to keep everybody out. And I had AN hardware on my bicycle long before I knew what AN hardware was. I just knew that those nuts didn't come loose. And I worked in GA, I worked for the airlines, I ended up working on aviation rulemaking committees for the FAA, and I ended up being a board member at the NTSB. Now, a board member is appointed by the president and confirmed by the US Senate. And I'll tell you what a treat that is. If you got any enemies, push them in that direction. And I served 2 terms at the NTSB, and it came out. And now the focus has been, and Greg and I tied up because of this, the focus is no longer to go chasing the broken metal and picking up the pieces, but let's try to prevent the accident from happening in the first place. Let's look at the pilot education, the mechanic education, and let's try to make it better. And let's try not to go out and pick up the pieces. You know, I've tried it at many accident scenes. I mean, you just can't deal with what you see sometimes without having to vent that emotion out. Let's stop it. Yeah. We lose 400 airplanes a year running out of gas. Why? Yeah. So anyway.
John, and my perception of you is your delicate and sensitive nature of trying to straighten out someone when they have a misperception is what really drove me to be one of your fans many years ago. And has anyone told you that you're blunt, direct, and to the point?
No.
Whatever?
No, never heard that.
Guys, gals, women, girls, boys, we got to get back to say what you feel and what you mean. It may hurt somebody's feelings, but we've got to delicately apologize if this hurts your feelings, but this is the truth. This is the reality of the situation. And this is the most horrible point of aviation accident investigation that I can ever remember. Pause. If I never go to another accident, it's okay. That's what we're there for.
That's exactly right.
John, I'm going to throw it back to you.
All right, so how do we make it better? The 3 of us are taking charge of pieces of this and trying to make it better. But one thing that when you talk about being a bull in a china shop, which is what they usually call me, all right, if you're out there, if you tell the truth as you know it, you might piss people off, but it's the truth. When you try to tweak it and add something to it, that's when you get yourself in trouble and ruin your own reputation. So you need to be truthful first, and you can be as firm as you feel you need if you're on solid ground.
And John, I think in our nation right now, on the whole, if we had exercised a little bit more of that, we wouldn't be in the predicament that we're in right now.
Yes,
and
I agree.
So I applaud you, and I want to work with you on that.
Well, you know, we didn't say one important piece right now. All right, all 4 of us up here are board members for PAMA. All 4 of us. We're reaching out to people everywhere to come in and try to help solve the problems that we have in aviation.
I didn't realize I was a board member.
You're a board member.
As a when?
A couple of weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't get the memo.
I told you on the phone we were going to sign you up.
Oh, well.
You should listen. Well, it's a sign of old age when you don't hear what's...
Well, but if we televise this, there's no way for me to back out. That's dirty pool, dude. That's rotten.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's news media.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I'll try to serve you well, all of you
Okay.
guys.
And so I'll let Ken next talk about, I'm going to take over the host now.
You got it.
I'll let Ken now talk about the skills competition.
The aerospace maintenance competition was created to give a world stage for skilled students and technicians that maintain aircraft and spacecraft around the world. After more than almost 120 years of aviation, Charles Taylor started our profession. In history, it's kind of forgotten what he's done. But by nature, mechanics, we don't look for accolades. We look for one problem, we fix it, and we go and wait for the next problem, and we do it right the first time, because perfection is our minimum standard in our industry. And we wanted to create a stage where technicians and students from around the world can come out and get their 15 minutes of fame. They're not asking for it, we're giving it to them. And the competition consists of roughly 25 to 28 different events that highlight some of the skills needed to maintain these aircraft and spacecraft. Now with space tourism on the horizon, it's going to be today's aircraft mechanics that are going to maintain tomorrow's spacecraft. And events range from safety wiring to composite repair, to sealant, if you name it. If it's on an aircraft or a helicopter, I mean, if it flies, we have some sort of representation for the skills that you need to maintain it. And we have 6 different categories that teams can compete in. We have schools, commercial aviation, general aviation, military, OEM, MROs, and now space. And the way it works, there's 5 people per team, and out of the 28 events, not all 5 people will do all 28 events. Each event is assigned 1, 2, or 3 competitors to compete, and they're timed. They have 15 minutes to do each event. Nobody knows anybody's score because we're not about embarrassing anybody. One team may have a higher score than another. It doesn't mean they did their job any less proficiently. They just simply took more time. It's a competition. There's butterflies involved, but the men and women that come, it's just their opportunity to show the public what is going on while they're sleeping. People get ready to fly. They don't really think about the technicians maintaining the aircraft while they're sleeping, let alone the men and women that are in the military, overseas, maintaining aircraft where they're at. General aviation, commercial, corporate. We're behind the scenes. We don't peek our head out from behind the curtain and say, hey, how you doing? Well, this competition does that. And we have teams from around the world. Australia comes, Japan comes, members of the military, and also students. Student category, the school category, is actually one of our largest. And what's really good about that is the students that are coming they're chosen because they're the sharpest tacks in the box. They're there to represent their respective school. They're also there to represent the future of our profession. And they're getting hired there on the spot. These are young men and women that haven't tested for their airframe and power plant certificates yet. And airlines and companies are walking around with their business card saying, give us a call when you get your certificates. And we're simply helping to open up doors for the next generation. And that's just a byproduct of the whole maintenance competition. And we're a nonprofit organization, and we're sponsored by industry. And they step up big. Snap-on is our biggest sponsor. The airlines create all the events are created by industry. United brings a 747 wingtip for a fuel event. American Airlines brings 2 APUs. They bring a second event for the pedestal of an MD-80 for troubleshooting. So we try to get a broad brushstroke of the responsibilities that we do, and we're held at MRO America's trade show each year, although with COVID we haven't done it the last 2 years, and 13,000 attendees come and watch what we're doing when they're sleeping.
Ken, tell us MRO. Some people may not know what MRO stands for.
MRO Americas is a trade show that's put on by Aviation Week and Space Technology. They have 5 trade shows that they put on around the world, and the North American one, the MRO Americas trade show, is their largest. They'll have 500 plus vendors, and they'll attract 13,000+ people to attend. And if it's aircraft, spacecraft maintenance related, they're there.
MRO, the acronym.
What does it stand
The MRO, okay,
Yeah.
I
What
got
time
you.
is it,
I'm a
Ken?
little
How do you
slow.
build a watch? Okay.
That's why I hang out with these guys, because I'm a little slow on the uptake. It's maintenance, repair, and overhaul. It's an acronym for companies that maintain aircraft in the deep sense where they rip them apart and put them back together.
Excellent.
And Ken was a little light on the benefits for the students. You know, I stood next to one of the vice presidents for United Airlines, and there was a women's team competing, and we encourage women to come and to compete. We've had full teams from across the U.S. and Canada. We've had females from everywhere. It's wonderful. But I was standing next to this VP, and he turned around to one of his people and says, "Go hire her," right off the floor. And she still works at United Airlines today.
Damn it, John, you get me choked up too.
We even have high school teams.
It's wonderful helping young people get the start in this business. It really is. You can't. The feeling is unbelievable.
I know you. I know. I feel you. John, let's take us to the podcast, because we've got just a few minutes, but we don't want to slight Hollywood down there. And Greg, may I?
Yes, you may.
Yeah.
You have now been anointed as a friend of the flight safety detectives.
I wear it with pride. Tell us what Flight Safety Detectives is all about.
Well, Flight Safety Detectives is a podcast that John and I put together, having both worked at the NTSB. One of the big issues, of course, is that you can't really tell all of the backstories when you're working for the United States government. You can't put everything in a report, and there is always a backstory, and there are other issues that may not make it into a report or even into someone's article about that particular accident. What John and I try to do is bring the backstory to life. That is, there's always information out there that people can learn from. We've dissected accidents where we think the probable cause or some of the causal factors are wrong or incorrect or even insufficient. So we dissect these accidents in an effort to try and educate people. We've all worked in the worst side of aviation, that is accident investigation. It doesn't get any worse than that. We've all been out to catastrophic events. The loss of life, is an emotional tie for us. One of the big things through the podcast is not only do we look at these accidents to learn from the lessons, but we also use this podcast as an outreach to young people to educate them. We were just at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. We spent a couple of days on campus. We were able to interview faculty and staff to see what their passion is, and again, encourage people, especially young people, to get into aerospace and aviation, because we had a waning interest for a while. So we use the podcast for a variety of things, but the biggest thing is lessons learned and education, because there is so much to be learned, as you know, from accidents and incidents.
Safety through prevention.
Absolutely.
And we have got to get our feelings off of our sleeves, and I applaud John and his efforts of making people come out. Let's take some swings. I mean,
and that's what we do on the
punches.
And that's what we do on the
Take some
podcast.
swings.
We have calls to action. We point the fingers. John and I have called out our former employer on many occasions for not doing their job, not responding to accidents.
I've been to 800 Independence Avenue, and on one of the stalls in the bathroom, Greg Feith, right there in the bathroom stall. And then the other one, John Goglia, is right there.
Yeah.
I haven't seen your name up there, Ken.
It's in small print.
Okay. But gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be on this set with you, and I hope that this won't be the last time. It is the first time, but it won't be the last time, and we've got a lot of work to do, and education is the key. STEM is great, but there's a lot more that goes into teaching somebody something other than just science, technology.
We've got to get them. You know, I came in with a passion. We all did, right? from a very early age. We've got to put that passion in the young people.
Yeah.
It didn't just happen. Those people, those mechanics that worked for Northeast Airlines, that I got that hardware that didn't loose, those nuts that didn't loosen up, they infected me. They got me to love aviation. We need to do that, all of us collectively need to do that with the young people today. You know, the car show business, they say, take a kid to a car show. Well, in our business, we should take a kid to an air show.
And we encourage that. I've encouraged it at every air show I give presentations at, and again, we talk about it on the podcast. You know, you got to get out and experience what aviation is all about.
We're going to drive people to the podcast, Flight Safety Detectives, and
Wait a minute, I've seen you drive. You are driving anybody.
hey, it's go and stop. Go and stop. There's only one speed.
That's right.
But John, I do want to correct you, and seldom do I correct you. I respectfully correct you. You said that we're trying to bring this to the attention, and you are bringing it to the attention. So I had to correct you there. I'm sorry. All due respect.
Thank you.
You can slap me later, but anyway. Gentlemen, we're going to sign it off, and again, there's no way that I can thank you enough for sharing your time and your day. Let's go out to the flight line and look at some little kids walking around and ask their parents first if they would like to become mechanics.
Excellent.
Well, thanks for having
Ben.
us.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to sign this one off. Ben Coleman, your anchor host for the Florida Aviation Network. We're going to see you next interview.